Let's move you to this story now. The Commissioner of the Border Management Authority, Dr. Mike Masiapato, accompanied by Deputy Commissioners, will today hold a media briefing. This is to provide a report back on the outline of the festive season border operations. Now, the briefing will also announce key statistics of travellers' movement during the festive season period. The Border Management Authority is also expected to highlight a number of achievements and interceptions recorded as part of operations. We take you there live to the briefing.
You know, all of us, that it is important for us to introduce to the country the head and the vision bearer of the Border Management Authority. This is none other than the man who was appointed by the President of the Republic of South Africa in November 2021 to come and steer the establishment and operationalization of this entity, the Border Management Authority, first one of its kind. And he is a man who has spent about 2 decades growing his career in the justice, crime prevention and security cluster in our country. I used to consider myself one of the most educated people when I thought I had so many degrees until I met him. I met a young man who holds 2 doctoral degrees from not just other universities, but from some of the universities that are ranked the top in our country, the University of the Witwatersrand and the University of Johannesburg. He also completed an executive national security program from the South African National Defence College. Help me welcome, ladies and gentlemen, the Commander of the Border Guard and the Commissioner of the Border Management Authority, Dr. Mike Masiapato. Commissioner.
The Deputy Commissioner for Corporate Services, Madam Jane Tupana, the Deputy Commissioner for Operations, Major General David Chilembe, retired, Assistant Commissioners, as well as the Deputy Assistant Commissioners present, the entire Border Management community, with all its entirety, members of the media and South Africa at large, good morning. On Sunday, the 3rd of December 2023, we convened you here and presented our festive season plan, which was to be implemented from the 6th of December 2023 to the 18th of January 2024. So today we have reconvened to report on our implementation of that festive season plan, which ran for 43 days through December 2023, when we implemented the exit leg of the plan, and January 2024, when we focus on the return leg of the plan. As you may recall, we did increase the human resource capacity across our critical ports. We also requested the Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, to help us to increase the operating hours in some of the selected ports of entries which do not operate on a 24 hours. Maybe just to recap, the mandate of the Border Management Authority is to facilitate and manage the legitimate movement of persons and goods across our 71 ports of entries, of which 52 are land, 10 are international airports and 9 are seaports. We would like yourselves to please note that our land ports of entries are now 52, no longer 53, after the recent decommissioning of Zanzibar port of entry with our border with Botswana. The work of the BMA covers areas in the ports of entries dealing with immigration issues, dealing with port health issues, environmental issues, agricultural biosecurity issues, including access control and general border law enforcement across the ports of entry as well as the border law enforcement area. During the implementation of this festive plan, the BMA collaborated with a multiplicity of law enforcement stakeholders across South Africa, and that includes the South African Police Services, the South African Revenue Service, the South African National Defence Force, Cross-Border Road Transport Agency, Immigration Inspectorate from the Department of Home Affairs, and various other traffic authorities across the country. Therefore, on behalf of the Border Technical Committee of Directors Generals, as well as the Interministerial Consultative Committee on Border Management, under the chairship of the Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, allow me to present the 2023-2024 festive season report on border operations. Let's start on immigration matters. We want to report that the BMA has managed to facilitate the legitimate movement of around 5,096,288 travelers across our 71 ports of entries just between the 6th of December 2023 to the 18th of January 2024. This number represents an increase of over 1 million travelers compared to the 2022-2023 numbers of 4 million travelers. However, this number is still 1 million less to the pre-COVID average numbers of around 6 million travelers. In facilitating the movement of these travelers, we processed over 216,594 private vehicles. We processed around 21,502 minibus taxis. We processed around 6,443 buses. We processed about 55,765 trucks through our movement control system. Further, we processed over 13,050 aircrafts through our international airports and about 709 vessels across our seaports in the marine environment. In addition, about 407 vessels were processed for crew changes through the off-port limit mechanism, which means crew changes without a vessel docking at port in our marine environment. In this festive period, OR Tambo International Airport facilitated the majority of travelers at about 993,754, followed by Libombo, a land port of entry to Mozambique, which processed about 755,066 people, followed by the Bait Bridge land port of entry to Zimbabwe, which processed around 745,000 people, 563 travelers. So compared to the 2022-2023 festive period, we have observed that OR Tambo registered an increase of 22% of traveler volumes. Libombo registered about 24% increase, while Bait Bridge registered about 25% increase. Although our primary job as the Border Management Authority is to facilitate the legitimate movement of people, We also have to deal with individuals who attempt to illegitimately move through our ports of entry and border law enforcement areas. As such, in this festive period, we were able to detect about 15,924 individuals who were attempting to enter South Africa without a requisite documentation through our ports of entries and the vulnerable segments of the borderline. In this instance, after intercepting them, we fingerprinted them, we declared them undesirable, and we then banned them from re-entering South Africa for a period of 5 years and keep the record in our biometric movement control system and got them deported. The majority of these individuals were intercepted at around Libobo land port of entry to Mozambique at about 6,808 individuals, followed by Bait Bridge land port of entry to Zimbabwe at about 1,891 individuals. Further, about 6,455 travelers were denied entry into South Africa for being undesirable. These include individuals who committed crimes in other countries and appear on the Interpol Red List. In addition, about 4,626 travelers were refused entry for being inadmissible. These include individuals with invalid passports, fraudulent visas, or failed to produce valid yellow fever certificates while traveling from yellow fever endemic countries. Therefore, in the 43 days of this festive period, when you add the numbers of the people intercepted for undocumented or having having documentation, which is 15,924, you add it with the number of the undesirables, which is the 6,455, and those that were inadmissible, which is 4,626. It is a total of 27,005 individuals who were fairly deported while attempting to enter South Africa illegally, just in the period of 43 days, from the 6th of December 2023 to the 18th of January 2024. During this period, we observed an increased detection rate on the undesirables, and this is due to the increased utilization of the biometric movement control system after the Department of Home Affairs actually assisted us in increasing the rollout of this particular system across the various ports of entry. We consider the BMCS as a contemporary movement control system for the reason that it allows our officials to capture the biometric data of individuals as they move through our ports of entries. Despite these interceptions, as the Border Management Authority, we remain concerned about some conveyancers, meaning public transporters, who continue to consciously transport illegal migrants across our ports of entry and border law enforcement area. During this period, we imposed 98 administrative fines to various conveyancers, especially bus companies, to the value of 3,540,000 rands for transporting illegal immigrants at the cost of 15,000 per person, as per Section 50, subsection 3 of the Immigration Act of 2002. At the same time, we were able to collect about 9.8 million in outstanding fines from about 25 bus companies. Further, we also held a meeting with about 30 bus companies which transport people in and out of South Africa and implored them to stop transporting illegal migrants into South Africa. In this regard, they have committed to ensure that valid transport will be a requirement when all travelers are procuring cross-border tickets and for entering into their buses on travel day. We further engaged the leadership of Cross-Border Road Transport Agency, the CBRTA, and agreed that bus companies should comply with the conditions of their cross-border permits. Otherwise, if they continue to transport illegal migrants into South Africa, such permits will be withdrawn. In this regard, we would like to call upon all law-abiding conveyancers, particularly the buses as well as the taxis, to effectively partner with the officials of the Border Management Authority and expose those conveyancers who continue not to observe the provisions of the Immigration Act, that they need to ferry people cross-border-wise who are having legitimate documentation. As the BMA, we would like to commend the sterling work of the law enforcement authorities in the neighboring countries and other parts of the continent who continue to assist us in intercepting, arresting, and deporting illegal migrants in their territories who are destined for South Africa. If we then move to reflect on general law enforcement matters, which we do working with the rest of the other law enforcement stakeholders within the Republic, the border guards were able to arrest about 246 criminal elements and confiscated about 4 troop boats, which are being used by facilitators to aid illegal migrants from crossing rivers into South Africa. In addition, various types of illegal drugs were confiscated that include 1.4 kg of crystal meth, commonly known as tick, 3.5 kgs of dagga, 4 grams of heroin, as well as 24 mandrax tablets. 10 tablets of depoxetine were also intercepted and confiscated, and all those are being processed for destruction. The border guards also participated in over 451 roadblocks, which were conducted together with the rest of the law enforcement authorities within 10-kilometer radius from the ports of entry. A further 4,638 foot as well as vehicle patrols were conducted across all modalities in the port of entries as well as the vulnerable segments of the borderline, in land ports of entries as well as sea, or what is described as maritime. On the protection of South Africa from agricultural and environmental biosecurity threats, we want to report that we have been able to intercept and seize a number of unauthorized consignments of crayfish, canned meat products, infested tinned gammon ham, wheat, beer, hazelnut paste, hatching poultry eggs, pack of water, and various other plants and animals such as canines. In this regard, we would like to commend the majority of the travelers who heeded to our call to avoid bringing alien invasive species as well as foreign pests associated with plants, animal products, and other regulated goods into South Africa. In this regard, it should be noted that the importation of plants and/or animal or their respective products is highly regulated and requires the requisite sanitary as well as phytosanitary certification by the relevant government departments for presentation at the ports of entry. When reflecting on the port health matters, our team of health specialists were able to screen about 1,497,480 travelers across all our ports of entry for various infectious as well as communicable diseases in these 43 days of the festive period. As already indicated above, among those that were considered inadmissible and being denied entry into the Republic, 418 of those were travelers who could not produce the valid yellow fever certificates as a requirement for travelers who then come from yellow fever endemic countries. In this festive period, our health specialists attended to 361 patients with varied medical emergencies across the 71 ports of entries in the Republic. Following the outbreak of cholera in Zimbabwe, in Malawi, and some parts of Zambia, the Border Management Authority Port Health team intensified its screening activities, particularly in the Beitbridge land port of entry to Zimbabwe. As such, a case of cholera was detected at Beitbridge and was handed over to the Limpopo health authorities for further examination and treatment. Further, a total of 2,394 persons were cleared and granted a clean bill of health in various vessels at our maritime environment. Therefore, in order to protect South Africa from any kind of microbiological, chemical, communicable, and/or infectious diseases, including any kind of physical environmental hazards, all returning travelers, in case they present any sign of illness or symptoms, they should visit their nearest health facilities or their private doctors for consultation with the intention to fully disclose their travel history. Despite all these efforts, as the Border Management Authority would like to acknowledge the outcry of South Africans on the challenges associated with illegal migration into South Africa. As such, we have started intensive conversations with the various stakeholders, including our neighboring countries, so that they help us in addressing this particular scourge. At this point, we would like to encourage all South Africans, in line with Section 5, subsection C of the Border Management Authority Act, to continue to engage with us on all matters relating to border management. Despite the end of the 2023 and 2024 festive period, as the Border Management Authority, we have put measures in place to sustain our intensified border operations and consolidate our border management functions going into the future. From these operations, we are already putting plans in place for the management of the upcoming Easter festive period that is coming in the next few weeks. In closing, the border management leadership would like to appreciate the cooperation received from the various law enforcement authorities in South Africa, those from our neighboring countries, and some from the other part of the world in this past festive period. Despite our limited resources, we would like to appreciate the work of our immigration specialists, health specialists, including environmental and agricultural biosecurity experts, for the great work done during this past festive period. We do note that because of capacity challenges, some of them had to work overtime and of course continue to work over the clock to make sure that the country is provided with the appropriate border management services as required of us by the Border Management Authority Act. We'll also like to thank our team of border guards as well as the coastal guards who continue to do their best in the midst of challenges and complexities associated with border law enforcement work. As we continue to do this work, we do believe that South Africa will rally behind us and assist us to improve our capacity and enroll the requisite technologies required for effective border management. Thank you very much.